Good morning. Welcome to the Capitol. We're glad that you're here this morning. We're glad that you're here to talk about sustainable business and how to ensure that business and jobs in Colorado are sufficient to stay here over the long term. I should have introduced myself. They told me that I should actually have to introduce myself again. Well, I'm Terrance Carroll. I'm the 34th Speaker of the Colorado House of Representatives, and I'm the State Representative for House District 7. And for those of you who don't know where that is, that's most of northeast Denver. So I have DIA, Montbello, Green Valley, Stapleton, parts of Park Hill, Montclair, Crestmore, and Mayfair. And the part of Crestmore I have is a very little tiny portion of Crestmore way down at the south near Crestmore Park, 4 little precincts that are mostly Republicans. I'm in a Democratic district, so it makes it interesting, but they're Republicans for Terrance Carroll. And I think one of them's here, a guy from my law firm, Mike Davis. I know you're in here somewhere, Mike. There you are. So it's great that you all are here. I'm not going to take up too much of your time today. I'm a politician, a lawyer, and an ordained minister, and some people say that's a trifecta for being long-winded, and I'm not going to be very long-winded today. Yeah, I'm going to keep it short. I've actually been struggling with a cold for the past few days, and so I don't have much of a voice left right now, and I haven't had any tea yet this morning with some honey to try to bring my voice under control just a little bit. One of the downsides of being speaker is that you spend an awful lot of time talking all day long, and when you have a cold and you have to speak all day long, it's not a very good situation, because by the end of the day, I can barely talk. Like, hey, it's good to see you. I feel like I'm from a scene of The Godfather, Tony Soprano, and I have a bunch of people sitting around the table trying to listen to what I have to say, and I want to thank them all for being there while I have the baseball bat hitting behind my back and I go hit someone upside the head. But, that's not for today. You're all here to hear me talk about a little bit about what our focus is this year, and you all pretty much know what that is, and I'll quote James Carville from 1992. He says, "It's the economy, stupid." And that's truly what it's all about this year at the Capitol. It's about the economy. It's about the economy again, about jobs. It's about the economy and about jobs some more. And you throw in a little bit of transportation, and that's pretty much our agenda for this legislative cycle. And it's not hard to imagine why that would be our number one focus this legislative cycle when you get up every morning. I woke up this morning and I watched the Today Show, and you hear more bad news every day about our economy. Yesterday we heard about Caterpillar and Home Depot, and today on the way in, I just heard in NPR that Corning was getting rid of 3,500 new jobs. It seems that the only industry that's doing well right now is the fast food industry, and McDonald's had their profits report yesterday, and their profits are up 80% from last year at McDonald's. So if you don't own stock in McDonald's, you should probably go get some while you still can, or if you're friends with the Kroc family, you may want to call them up and see what they can do for you. But it appears that most things aren't particularly in the best place right now when it comes to our economy. So it became our focus at the legislature to address the economy this year. And seriously, there's not a whole lot, generally speaking, that we can do to create jobs directly. We can create the context for creating jobs. We can create the environment where jobs can be created. And knowing what our limited role is, because we don't have that ability that the federal government has to just print up more dollars and just kind of put them in the economy. If we could, I would. Little Terrance Carroll bucks, just so people could have them around in their back pocket most of the day. But because we don't have the ability to create more money or to go into deficit in Colorado to stimulate the economy, we had to focus on the areas that we could accomplish something in. And one thing we can do, and we do it well in this state, is that we can create committees. And we created a joint select committee on economic development and job creation. And that committee was charged principally with looking at how do we sustain the jobs that we have here in Colorado, how do we create new jobs in Colorado, how do we continue to strengthen the new energy economy in Colorado, or green-collar jobs, how do we ensure that our rural parts of our state aren't left out of future job growth and economic development. And also, a little tag-along with that whole thing, and it's an important tag-along, is how do we come up with a long-term sustainable solution to our transportation funding problems in the state of Colorado. And I'll start with the transportation piece first. I said earlier that the government, at least at the state level, has very little that we can do to create jobs. The best that we can do is create an environment and a context where job creation and economic growth can take place. But there is one area that we do have a direct impact on the creation of jobs, and that's through transportation funding. And the state is primarily responsible, along with the federal government, for infusing cash and the resources necessary to maintain our roads and our bridges and to build new roads and bridges. And that's the one area that we can do our job most effectively in terms of stimulating the economy. The National Conference of State Legislatures has predicted, and they forecasted in a study, that for every $1 billion that we spend in highway spending, road construction, bridge development, we can create about 47,000 new jobs. I mean, that's an awful lot of jobs that can be created just for an investment in our roads and our highways. And that's just aside from the point that we need to do it, that we need to do bridge maintenance, that we need to build new bridges and roads along the way. Colorado right now has 126 structurally deficient or functionally obsolete bridges. That's the type of bridge that was in Minnesota that fell through about 2 years ago, that crashed, and where we had that tremendous loss of life. One of the biggest bridges that falls in that category, and most of you probably travel over it every single day, is the I-70 viaduct. And I was actually at the stock show an awful lot. I even have my boots on today in honor of the stock show still. You can't be a Western politician and not have cowboy boots. It's a job requirement. And I'm a city guy from D.C. But if you go under the I-70 viaduct, you'll notice that the bridge is not necessarily in the best position. And I drove under an awful lot to go to the stock show over the past couple of weeks. And if you look up at it, you see there's concrete that's exposed at the rhubarb, and you've seen where we've tried to make repairs. It's in an awful state, and we have bridges like that all across the state. And I know that for most people in the state of Colorado, they don't wake up thinking, I wonder how my bridges are. I wonder how my highways are doing. I wonder if the roads are doing okay. It's just not the number one topic, but it's the one place where people have the greatest interaction with the government on a daily basis is through transportation, is through highways, is through roadways, and it's our responsibility to ensure that they're safe and that people won't be injured traveling on our highways. But it's also important that we get Coloradans back to work, and we can do that effectively through investing in our infrastructure and getting people back to work. And the 47,000 new jobs are just the ones we can directly trace to transportation. Those jobs also spin out into other sectors of the economy as people spend their money. So restaurants benefit from it. The housing industry benefits from it. The retail industry benefits from it if we can just get people back to work in Colorado, and that's one way that we can do it. The other thing that we've looked at through the Joint Select Committee on Economic Development is how do we get new business here to Colorado. And one of the things that they've recommended, one of the proposals that they have, is that we create a tax incentive for companies that can demonstrate that they would not have come to Colorado if not for this tax credit. And that's the first bill out the hopper in the House. It was House Bill 1001. And we hope that this will be another stimulus for us to get our economy off the ground in Colorado. And the second proposal that we'll see out of the committee fairly soon, it's kind of related to the committee, is to revive the Colorado Credit Reserve Program, which requires a small investment from the state, which will then allow when the state kind of backs these loans a little bit, which then allows Colorado banks to reinvest in small business and start to loosen the credit market so that small businesses can go out and get the loans that they need to hire people, to buy the machinery, to buy the goods that they need to keep their business going.